Well, the Christmas and New Year period is typically a tough time for veterans. And this year, there's the added pressure of border closures and the Afghanistan report. Former Special Forces Commando Heston Russell has launched a series of community events to support veterans and their mental health in Queensland. Heston joins me live now. Heston, thank you so much for your time. Can you tell me what prompted you to start this program?
G'day Anna, thanks for having us. Well, so it's been an interesting time for the veteran community before the Christmas break. And then all of a sudden we had the spike in New South Wales, which sent another shockwave of destabilisation amongst our community. So we actually launched a bit of a Facebook support group, and during that we actually really realised that there's a lot of veterans missing that connection. And I was fortunate enough to come up here to Queensland where we could still do these events. So actually engaged with a number of RSLs that the veteran community has told us has been very proactive in supporting them. And we've had a great cut through so far, and did the one last night at Currumbin and have one on Friday at Kedron Wavell here in Brisbane.
Can you tell me about the response last night from the people who attended the scope and what they had to say about it afterwards, how it helped these veterans?
Yeah, absolutely. We had quite a mixed bag last night, from families of recently joined veterans through to young veterans and a couple of Vietnam veterans. And it was great to just be able to get people together and connect. And we had some very vulnerable conversations about mental health and the current situation. It was really great to hear their feedback on where everyone's at. It was really, really powerful actually hearing the Vietnam veterans come and talk afterwards about how really disappointed and actually burst into tears talking about how they were so saddened by the current situation and the climate that they were seeing and hearing and witnessing our young veterans go through. And to hear, unfortunately, a lot of the current veterans really starting to talk about their wavering purpose in the midst of what we're seeing, this sort of toxic leadership culture from the top down that started to emerge with the release of the Brereton Report, and is still really affecting those even not in with Special Forces, but really having some doubts in that senior leadership and their protection and support of them in their role.
Just on the Brereton Report, where it's up to, I believe next month, we're expecting that independent criminal justice side to get underway. Have you had any sort of movement on that? I know towards the end of last year you were particularly vocal as sort of in advocating for the veterans or people who'd been potentially part of this.
Yeah.
Have you got any sort of update or communication?
I think the key part for me, and over this break I did engage with a lot more of those people, and I don't speak for everyone, but I speak for a lot of those involved. We're very happy to see the Office of the Special Investigator stood up. Now hopefully we can see that conduct its official investigation and evidence be brought before charges and possible convictions, and just allow that to occur. In the meantime, there's been really huge uncertainty by those who issued with these PAP notices, these termination notices, and went into their Christmas and New Year break still having no response from the Defence Force, no response from the Chief of Army, no response to the Chief of Defence Force. So really, really mixed feelings. Very happy for it to be progressed to this, but in the meantime, this culture really needs a shake-up from the top down.
Can we talk a bit more about the Christmas and New Year period? Why is it traditionally tough for veterans? And then, of course, you did touch on it, but if you can just explain what those sort of border closures and, of course, the report, how that does make it particularly tough.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the common narrative across the veteran community for those who really do suffer from mental health decline resulting in ideation and inaction really comes from that loss of purpose, loss of identity. And thrown into the bag, what we know causes issues with our anxiety is that uncertainty and that isolation. And we've had people who've had their entire year planned around all these lockdowns and closures and looking forward to get back to their families at Christmas. And the last minute we had people that couldn't. We had defence members who were away from their families and have had to isolate for 2 weeks going back in. It's just really, really destabilised a lot of people at a time when a lot of people were really looking forward to this, being that time that, everything was looking good and everything was looking like we're getting back to control. And then again, we've seen defence personnel deployed up to Fiji in support. We've seen defence personnel continuing with COVID assist. So there's lots going on, but there's a lot of people being pulled in different directions. And what I'm getting back from the veteran community is then seeing the Chief of Defence Force and Chief of Army come out boldly, and essentially abandon a lot of people before due process has occurred. And then to only hear the Defence Minister, not even the Minister for Veterans Affairs, come out, there's really this destabilised culture of where are our senior leaders and why they're not supporting us. So we're just trying to connect, listen. I'm not the panacea to any of this, but I have a fantastic team, and we're really, really helping to support veterans, supporting veterans, because that's what we need to do first and foremost.
Yeah, still of course a long way to go, but you do have an event, as you say, you are getting out there and trying to offer some support. Can you tell me about the event in Brisbane tomorrow night if anyone wants to attend?
For sure. So we're going to be out there at the Kedron Wavell RSL, and all this is basically talking about is my personal journey that took me to the highest of highs, my greatest performance within the military, within Special Forces, and then took me to the lowest of lows last August, as has been publicised, when I had my own suicidal ideation, and then working with the veteran community upon reflecting on those, trying to see any potential intervention measures that could have been maintained in place, and then again just connecting with each other. And it's great at these events, particularly with where the veteran community is at the moment, really connecting the older veterans with the younger veterans. The Vietnam veterans are coming out, you know, that they have stories and they have similar experiences, and our younger veterans are now looking up to them. There's just a fantastic chance to connect as a community, as veterans.
Fantastic. And finally, you do also have your a charity initiative, Voice of a Veteran, so people can head to that if they need some extra support too.
Yeah, voiceofaveteran.org. Please go on there, and particularly for veterans who might not get to these events, we've actually put a survey in there where we want to hear from those veterans if they have any inputs to us. So voiceofaveteran.org, and they can click on the link. And again, please help us, because education and understanding are pivotal to helping all of us work through this together.